Hey there, let's talk about something that quietly controls a lot of people's lives, and it's basically their vision of their desired self. So, their desired self is basically everything they aspire to become. Basically, if someone wants to be successful, if someone wants to be rich, if someone wants to be the greatest artist, all of those things. The thing is with desired self, it's pretty vague. So, it doesn't actually tell you what you need to be doing. And the opposite to desired self is your feared self. Your feared self is basically the opposite. And you can even put a scale here, and for each person, you can ask them where they see themselves. And this is pretty much where they kind of become more self-conscious of where they are in life. And the problem with each of these is that you don't just become your desired or feared self overnight. It doesn't happen fast. It happens gradually. You drift towards one of those sides. And what tends up happening is that you end up drifting towards your feared self without even realizing. And the problem with that is that it happens slowly, we don't realize, and then we get stuck here. And this is what makes us feel depressed. This is what makes us feel bad. This is what makes us feel great, right? However, you don't really know how to get there. You just have this big idea of, I want to be successful. I want to be this. I want to be that. But in the end, it doesn't translate into tangible tasks or things that you need to be doing, right? So as an exercise, what you can do is you can think of a person that you admire, that you believe is already there. So it could be an entrepreneur, it could be a celebrity, it could be someone in your contacts, like someone you know. And what you're going to do is you're going to write down the traits they have. So it could be productive. It could be entrepreneurial. It could be risk taker. And so on. And you're going to keep doing that. And then you're going to do the exact opposite for your feared self, because this translates into what you are, like the traits that you don't want to be like. So productive, unproductive. Entrepreneur, staying stuck or not moving, or 9 to 5, right? Just to shorten it now. Risk taker, staying still, right? Not doing much, not taking risks in life, basically. Thing is, these terms are still pretty vague, but they kind of help us understand what we need to be looking at. So we need to be looking at productivity, entrepreneur, like thinking like an entrepreneur, doing things like an entrepreneur, taking risks in life. So this is still too vague. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to write down small subtasks under each of these traits. So for productive, we are not going to say, hey, I just want to be more productive. We're going to say, for example, wake up every day at this time. Implement a certain, study technique. Implement a certain, strategy to, be more productive. Like very tangible, small things and actions. Stuff like that. You can think for yourself. This is a task. Obviously, it depends on what your traits are. Entrepreneurial. It's not like start a business. This would be too vague. So what you're going to write down is research niche ideas. Think of an offer. Stuff like that. So offer, productive, wake up, 7 a.m., for example. Go to the gym, stuff like that. Risk taker. So this is, again, like it's a broader term. Sometimes it's kind of difficult, to come up with tangible tasks, but this really gives you a very precise plan of what you need to be doing. Because like I said, you're just going to say, I want to be successful. I want to be rich, right? All of these things, they don't really tell you what you need to be doing. That's why we're doing this. And by doing these small tasks, we slowly drift towards our desired self. And this gives you clarity, because what happens to a lot of people, they feel lost. They finish school, they are very motivated, and then they don't know what they need to be focusing at or what they need to be doing. So they often have these bursts of motivation where they're just, all right, like I want to become rich and successful. Maybe they have one night where they're just, researching random stuff and they're, trying to figure it out. And then the next day, motivation down, obviously, because it takes time to get there. And then because motivation down, they're doing like random stuff again that doesn't really bring them in this direction. All right. And what they usually end up doing is they become lazy and they slowly drift towards their feared self. This is what happens to most people, usually in their 20s up to, their late 30s sometimes. We want to avoid this. We want to avoid going here. So what we're going to do as well is write down the tasks that bring us here. And this kind of defines us or tells us what to avoid. So unproductive, be on social media, right? Not 9 to 5, not thinking of escape plans, right? That's not what I like to call it, escape plans. This basically tells you, all right, avoid the social media. All right, find a way to avoid this. Not thinking, escape plan. All right, like think of ideas, right? So whenever you are realizing you're doing tasks from this side, immediately stop them. Try to get these out of your schedule or try to get these out of your routine. And with time, slowly you're going to end up drifting again here. The thing is, this doesn't happen fast. To become your desired self requires consistency, repetition. So keep doing these small exercises. Ideally, you do this on a weekly or a couple of times per month in order to really define what you want to be focusing at and what you need to take care of, because then you can just go one by one and you can tick each of these and move towards that direction.